This is really interesting, this Michael Saylor versus Elon Musk, and how it has kind of divided along lines of plebe versus toff, a word used in the UK to describe aristocrats and patricians, and people wouldn't normally associate Michael Saylor with plebe because he is a billionaire, and but the way his approach with to Bitcoin is with utmost humility. Like he believes the protocol is this thing of beauty, is aesthetically enriching, and so he approaches it with great reverence. Whereas Elon Musk takes the high-handed, patrician, overweened, spoiled brat approach of I just found out about Bitcoin and I'm here to fix it. He hasn't done any due diligence, and he's made a total jackass out of himself. But it's interesting how these two are now squaring off on Twitter. You got Elon Musk will say some cryptic tweet really revealing his total ignorance on the subject, and then Michael Saylor will respond with 10 data points that just shoot everything down, and everyone is now kind of divided in the community. The Jameson Lobb quote really resonates deeply for a number of reasons, because it sets up this whole new way of thinking in a big way. If you're a fiat billionaire or you're tied to fiat, you spend a lot of time and energy maintaining that wealth. When I was working on Wall Street for many years, there's a saying that it's just as hard to maintain your wealth as it is to make your wealth. And that's true, because once you achieve a certain amount of wealth, you've got all these taxes to consider and all these different there's a lot that comes with it. Managing wealth is actually a fairly complicated and stressful environment, similar to just trying to make that wealth. But with Bitcoin, as Jameson Lobb's pointing out here, you're doing nothing except just being patient and watching the world flame apart, and your ship is rising. There's not much more to do than that. So it's very, very interesting, this dynamic. But this energy FUD is so absurd. There's absolutely nothing within it that makes any sense whatsoever, and it's easily dispelled. The fact is also that Michael Saylor said something in an interview where, when asked about this, he was talking about why anyone would disparage the energy usage of Bitcoin, which is 1/10 of 1% of global energy usage. 1/10 of 1% of global energy usage. Why anyone would disparage this and ignore the fact that it's guaranteeing for billions of people private property rights and access to a store of value and a medium of exchange is really heinous and atrocious and a violation of human rights. He makes that point. So Elon has to ask himself, does he really want to be on the side of those who are attacking human rights around the world? Which at the moment, that's what he's done. And it is quite a heinous act on his part to throw 5 billion people, under the bus effectively, and give them a big fuck you. It's despicable, to be quite honest.
I think, the point is, our ancestors throughout all the revolutions that have happened that got us to this place, they were willing to sacrifice their lives for liberty. And Bitcoin delivers liberty. And the fact that people are like, I'm going to fly in my private jet to come lecture you about whether or not the energy used to preserve your liberty is worth it.
We talk about it with our guests coming up in the interview, and the comment made was that the relativity factor between, where is this energy being used, right? Because according to the Paul Krugmans of the world, any energy use that's not sanctioned by the elites is false, and they don't take into consideration the context of this energy use in any way. And the fact that it is liberating billions of people from subjugation by oligarchs, plutocrats, kleptocrats, and the US dollar hegemony never factors into their conversation and never weighs into their cost-benefit analysis. If the cost-benefit analysis is, I'm willing to spend 150 terawatt hours a year to secure a global value network that frees 7 billion people from the tyranny of centralized governments and centralized banks. Okay, and it's 1/10 of 1% of all energy globally expended currently. Are we willing to take the step off planet kleptocracy? Are we willing? This is the way, this is the path, this is the way. Are we willing to do it? I mean, Musk is saying, no, I want to stay tethered to a planet of oligarchs, elites, aristocrats, and carbon credits, and Comcast, CNBC types, enlisting me in effectively a psyops campaign. He's comfortable with that. He's a freak. He's an enemy of the people.
The plebs always win, and this is the revolution that we're reporting on. Essentially, the revolution is happening, and the elite will always have a let them eat cake moment. They'll always have those sort of moments. Tsar Nicholas had that as well. Like when the peasants were outside his palace in St. Petersburg, like he genuinely just thought, oh, this is just a fad. It's just going to go away. These deplorables obviously can't rule themselves, right? They need me. Like this always happens. These sort of this is a pivotal moment in history, and what Bitcoin has delivered is, the peaceful revolution, and that's happening whether they want it or not. They don't want it, but that's the point. Michael Saylor had responded to this guy Adam Sampson. He said, "Bitcoin is electric money. Real cars use more electricity than toy cars. The article above is full of logical errors and falsehoods. Bitcoin is the most efficient technology for converting energy into prosperity we have yet to devise." We, of course, heard that similar from our friend who is the particle physicist that we spoke to, who said that, this is the first time it's been done where you convert energy directly into currency, and that has never happened. Convert it to money.
Right. It's backed by energy. You're converting energy into the hardest money ever known in humanity to such a perfect degree. You create perfect money, and you will actually potentially engender an evolutionary step change in our species toward altruism, which we have the ability for altruism, but we don't use it. That's the tragedy of it all, is that we can be altruistic, but we don't use it. Other species do use altruism, and humans do use altruism from time to time as a strategy in survival. Sometimes the way to survive is to be altruistic, but it's been overridden by this incredible monetization of war and violence, which is very easy to profit from war if you print the money to go to war. Now, if you get rid of that and demonetize war and violence, and you monetize love, peace, and altruism, you're going to have an evolutionary step change, which is what we're on the verge of. And Elon is just putting his foot in the way. He's putting his thumb in the pie, whatever is, he's getting in the way. He's becoming an obstructionist because he's a narcissist. It's all about him. And if it's not all about him, he's going to do whatever he can to get in the way. He's like the classic, kid on the playfield. It's like, well, if you don't do it my way, I'm taking the ball. Right? It's my ball. I'm taking the ball. It's like, don't be such a, 2-year-old whiny little cuck. Just get off the playing field if you can't handle it, and let us get on with it.
I think he is genuinely, from his tweets at Michael Saylor on Thursday, what it seemed to me was that he is genuinely insecure, and he feels intimidated by Michael Saylor. He tweeted and deleted 2 things. I did manage to capture one of them, but one of them he was like, Michael Gigachad Saylor, very insecurely. And then he did this in response to when Michael Saylor sent the thing about, electric money. He said, "It's not the bull market. You really are a genius." And somebody, of course, in the Bitcoin meme community went through there and said, it's not all the government, credits. It's, you really are a genius, Elon,
Yeah, well, this is where I think the psyops and the government connection comes into play. And when you put them on like a Saturday Night Live, and then you have the FT and the New York Times and everybody, that's the signal to repeat everything this guy says as part of this massive psyops. But the protocol has sussed this out long ago. And I really think the chances now of Elon joining John McAfee in prison are, I thought the chances, a few weeks ago, I'd say, hey, this guy looks like he wants to go to prison. and maybe you got a 10% chance. But I think we're talking 80-90% chance now that within 18 months, Elon will be sitting in a jail cell, which is exactly where he belongs.